Hi everyone, my name is Phil and welcome to Phil Does 3D. I'm a multimedia and 3D artist and I stream on Twitch weekdays from 5 p.m. Pacific time in the United States, 10 a.m. in Australia and 1 a.m. in the UK. Hope you guys had a great weekend. We are working on our Art Deco building. We're doing the interior of the building at the moment. We're finished with the exterior. We're going to be creating a cinematic fly-through in the Unreal Engine 4.17.1. So at the end of last week's streams, we were working on this skylight for the Art Deco building. So we were working on texturing everything up in Substance Painter and then bringing it into Unreal so that we could fit our skylight in our building here. So that's what we're going to do today. We didn't get to actually finish it last week, but we will finish the skylight today. We're almost done with the building. We worked from the front to the back of the building, so let's just jump through what we've done. There we go. So we've done our first main entry hallway here. We've done our second hallway up here. We've finished our little bay window section through here. We still do have to do furniture and plants and all that sort of stuff. We'll do that at the very end once we've finished fleshing out the rest of the interior of the room. We've done our entry stairwell here. And our main room, which is this one here. Again, the fog value is too high. I will turn that back, but once we've finished doing the rest of the interior here, just before we start creating the cinematic, then I'll adjust the fog values and turn on the new fog that Epic have included with 417, which is more of a volumetric fog. Really nice, by the way. I'm looking forward to turning it on and seeing what it looks like. And then we've been working on this main area through here, and initially I didn't have a skylight in here, but I thought, well, this stairway would look really good if we had a skylight through the building, so that's what we're going to do today. We've got all our bits and pieces already brought in to Unreal so that we can start placing our modular skylight together. So do remember, guys, if you've got any questions or anything you're not sure about, please feel free to pop into chat and ask me. If I can help, I'm happy to try. I don't pretend to know everything, but I've been in 3D for more than going on 15 years now. I'm an arch-viz artist at the moment. I've worked in games development in the past and I've done some film work as well. So if you've got any questions regarding 3D or Unreal or art, I guess, please feel free to pop into chat and ask me. If you just want to pop in and say hello, that's always welcome. Or if you just want to watch, that's completely fine. Just excuse me for a sec, guys, while I grab a quick drink. Again, I'm going to be updating my streaming quality shortly when the NBN, which is National Broadband Network here in Australia, rolls out to my suburb. And I'm just concerned with the transcoding because we lost transcoding. I reached out to Twitch support and transcoding was re-enabled, but I've noticed today that the transcoding has dropped off again, so we'll just keep an eye on it over the next few weeks until and again, the NBN rollout, it's dependent on the government. It's a government initiative thing, so they can take their time. Even though it's due to be available for me towards the end of this month, I'm not holding my breath, knowing the government, it could be delayed. But my main concern is transcoding, because if I do up my quality and start streaming at a higher bitrate, I want to make sure you guys can still watch the stream. So losing transcoding will be a problem. And I know Twitch for affiliates don't guarantee transcoding, so we'll just keep an eye on it over the next few weeks to see if it pops back again. And if it doesn't, I'll reach out to Twitch support again. We'll take it from there. Also with my days of the week, as you guys know, my schedule doesn't change. It's every Monday, Tuesday, 5 p.m. Pacific in the United States. It's generally every Wednesday as well, but I haven't been able to do Wednesdays at the moment because my workload was too high, and I've decided I'll pick up Wednesdays again once the NBN is available here in my my suburb. I'll let you guys know ahead of time when that happens. So hopefully if the NBN rolls out pretty quickly, it'll be soon. Hey Crosswind, good to see you. Yeah, Crosswind says, yeah, his connection's garbage. 720p is the highest you can really watch in, and even that's a stretch sometimes, yeah. I know that's a problem for a lot of you guys. Listen, the internet in my country is not great either. That's what this NBN rollout, National Broadband Network, by the government is supposed to fix our internet connections up. So, yeah, I don't really want to push it for people that can't watch it, particularly if there's no transcoding on my channel, so you can't knock it back if you do have a problem with your connection. It's going to make it pointless for me to stream at a high quality if no one can watch me. So I'll keep an eye on a Crosswind. I won't do it if transcoding doesn't pop back and stick. Simply because, like I said, I don't want to make it so you guys can't watch my channel. There's no point. I'm on here to stream for people to watch me, so if I'm streaming too high a bit rate that people can't watch me, then it defeats the purpose. But so don't worry, Crosswind. I won't push the higher bit rate until we make sure that transcoding does stick on my channel. And if it looks like it won't be sticking, then I'll keep it at 720p, 30 FPS. And I've got it at the bit rate for 720p is low enough that it should be okay for most people. So don't worry, I'll let you guys know ahead of time. Even if I can't up the bit rate, when I get the NBN, I can still start my Wednesday streams again, so it'll still be back to 3 days a week. So it'll all be good, don't worry guys. I won't push it if you can't watch it and if we don't have transcoding. When the NBN rolls out, I'll go back to doing Wednesdays. We'll stick to our current bit rate. And if transcoding does, hey Sniper Echo, good to see you buddy. How was your weekend? And Crosswind, how was your weekend too? We're just talking about the transcoding. It's dropped off the channel again. I am doing very good, thanks Sniper. Yes, starting to... When you're really busy at work, I don't know if you guys know, but you get into this super hyperactive mode for the time that you're busy, all the time. And I was busy for months on end there. So it's hard to sort of wind down from that. Takes a little while, a few weeks to wind down from the super busy mode. You're doing pretty good, Crosswind? Cool. Yeah, but no, I'm good. I had a nice relaxing weekend. I just watched a couple of movies on TV. Which makes a nice change from being constantly having to work. Don't get me wrong, I love my job, I love 3D, it's not a problem. The studio aren't there with a whipping me, it's my fault. I take on too much work on at the studio. But anyway, say la vie. Like I said, love what I do, doesn't matter. Just my health, as you guys know, a few weeks ago I had to take that week off because of headaches, and that was, I think, because I took on too much. Too much for too long. You can't burn the candle at both ends and not have it affect you at some stage. Anyway, I'm good now. And my weekend was good, and I'm glad you guys had a good weekend too. And yeah, the transcoding, and if it doesn't stick on my channel, if we have that problem again, I'll keep it at the current bit rate, but I'll still go back when the NBN rolls out to my Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday again. And with a bit of luck and fingers crossed, it should be in the next few weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, hopefully. I should get my connection going on NBN. But I will let you guys know ahead of time, so don't worry. Alright, so we have our skylight to place. Now I have cut the hole out in the ceiling, as you can see here. The only thing I changed actually from last week when you guys were watching was I placed some of these metal gates here, I guess you'd call them, in amongst our doorways on all of our 3 doors. And they're the same gates that we're using for all of our ironwork here, just the same metal gate here. So we're just reusing it around the building. And I just placed these decorative pieces here on top of the banister railing pieces, the column pieces. Now I just want to explain what this is. Do you remember last week we created this this piece for our skylight, which is what we're going to actually be placing today in our skylight. We made up this piece here for the skylight. I'm using that here for our banisters, so I'm reusing the asset again. But what I've done is, if I select it, you can see what's going on. I've hidden half of it inside the column. I do this quite a lot because if I don't want to bring in a new asset, so I don't want to use more polygon memory and texture memory and that sort of thing, I'll reuse an asset that I've created for somewhere else, in this case for the top of the skylight here, and just hide half of it either in another asset or in the wall or in the ceiling. It's just a good cheap way to reuse assets and make them a little bit different without having to create new stuff and add to your memory count and all that sort of stuff. So that's what they are. They are the pieces we're going to be using up here in our skylight. I've just appropriated them and shrunk them down a little bit so that we can use them in our stairwell. And they just help to add a bit more visual interest, a bit more height through this central section of the hall. And I've just placed them on all of our railing pieces here just to keep consistency throughout our level. But we're nearly there, guys. We've got this skylight to do up here in this part of the room. Then I just want to tackle this wall here beside the stairwell and change the carpet on the stairwell as well. And then we've only got this small room section through here and the back room. And then we are pretty much good to start placing the furniture and the plants and then creating our cinematic. So we're nearly there. It'll be done before Christmas, I promise. It will. I am determined it will be done before Christmas. It will. So let's start putting together our skylight. All right. I think what we'll do here is we'll start at the top and we'll work our way back. I think that's probably the best way to go. I'm just keeping an eye on OBS here because I don't want to... You remember last week we had my internet for my stream crapped out, disconnected. It should be all good. It's been good for the last few days, so it shouldn't be a problem. And that's the first time it's dropped out in ages. So, but OBS really does not like, if you're a streamer and you're using OBS and you're using the Unreal Engine, it hates real time. So I can't really turn real time on here to show you all the plants moving in the wind and all that sort of stuff, because it drops frames. Anyway, let's start at the top and work our way back. And I think the first thing we'll start with will be the frame, I think. Now, the frame is too small because we scaled all of our objects up from max when we brought them in. If we'd kept everything the same scale, it wouldn't be a problem, but it's not a big issue for us to fix that. I'm just going to select a building and I'm going to copy my scale here so I can get everything to fit together nicely. Let's go back to our asset. And let's scale it up. And rotate it around. And let's just sort of place it sort of where it needs to go. We can make adjustments, small adjustments after we start putting everything together. Just going to zoom right up here so I can get a better overall view of the actual top of the building. That looks about right. All right. Let's pull in the next section, which is where the actual glass pieces will go. And again, copy our scale across. Move everything in. And if I do my job properly, everything should fit together nicely. We'll find out. If I did my initial design properly, everything should fit together without a problem. Just going to pull down here and make sure I'm in the right, it's actually not too low here. It's got to sit inside of that frame. I'm looking at that edge over there to line it up. Okay, let's place the glass pieces in here while we're up here. So I'm going to jump back into my building meshes, and I'm pretty sure I've got a glass piece here somewhere that we've been using for the windows. This one here, I know it because it's see-through, you can't see it, so let's pull this in. Now, what we could do is we could scale this up to fit the entire rectangle for the glass, but I'm actually going to place the panes individually in here, simply because if we scale it all at one piece to fit the entire window frame, because this is a physically accurate piece of glass, so it's using a shader that is more physically accurate for glass, we're going to get a problem with the look of the of these separated pieces. It's sort of going to, if we place the glass all the way through them, it's going to look a bit odd. So for a large window like this, I did do that for the smaller windows downstairs, but for a large window, I'm going to place individual panes. Again, if you're making a game, that can be really helpful for you because you could shoot one of the glass panes out without cracking the entire window. You could just crack one of them. Okay, let's rotate you 90 degrees. And I'm going to start down this end and work my way back. And you'll notice here, I did actually cut out little grooves here for the window pane to sit inside of. Scale it up just a bit more. Just check it from down below. Make sure it's sitting in our groove. Looks like it has to come up just a little bit. Okay, now all we have to do is start copying them around. Now the texture I'm using is quite a dirty glass, as you can see here. This is a piece that's sitting on the top of the roof, so it's going to get quite dirty. Yeah, I decided not to finish this off last week because I know it gets quite late for you guys in Europe, so I thought it would be better if we sort of left the final construction stage here to today. And I started late too because I had internet problems, so last week. And the final pieces. Might just scale this one up just a tiny bit to make sure I get it all the way to that edge. Okay, let's check that from inside. That looks good. Hey, Legmog. Yes, Legmog, this is that haunted house. Well, it's not going to be a haunted house, but yeah. Yep, we're nearly done though. We're nearly all the way through the building. We've only got a couple of little rooms left to flesh out before we put our furniture in, and then we can do our cinematic, and then we can move on to something else. Alright, I think our skylight here is okay, so let's move on to the next piece. And the next piece will be the skylight box mesh, which is this one. Again, let's just make sure we copy our scale value. No, don't do that. What it's done is, I didn't realize Unreal did that because I was copying a mesh. It copied the name instead of the value. So I'm just going to copy that value again for the scale. Because I was duplicating these meshes, it copied the mesh name in here. And we don't want that, we want a value. So how are you, Legmog? What have you been up to? Did you have a good weekend? Okay, let's rotate this around 90 degrees. Again, they're coming in at the wrong angle here simply because the object in Max is, we rotated the house when we brought it into Unreal. Okay, let's pull this down a bit. Pull it up a bit. Going to get into a position here where I can see my axes so I can control it a bit better. You moved house, Legmog, okay. So your brain is fully melted out of your ears from last week, but you're slowly returning back to normal and working on your sci-fi 3D city. Cool. Because it was looking very nice when you showed it the other week. I think Legmog is working on, I think he's doing a sci-fi sort of series, I think he said he was going to do with that city. And the models were looking very nice. Legmog says you haven't made enough. I haven't made enough progress to warrant showing all your new work in progress links. Okay, but in a few months' time, you figure you'll be very close to complete. Well, I look forward to seeing it because, like I said, what I did see was looking very nice. So yeah, I do. I look forward to seeing what you come up with. Yeah, because it was looking really cool. And I'm sure it'll make a great series, sci-fi cinematic. And it takes months, guys, to get anything done properly, so it's good that you're not rushing it, because 3D, I love doing it, but it's something that's time-consuming. You want to take your time doing it. Crosswind says, more than me, I haven't made any progress on anything in about a year. That's okay. You don't want to force yourself to do stuff either, because you're not going to do good work if you're forcing it on yourself. Okay, now I'm just trying to work out what I'm doing here. I think I need to pull it down a bit. I think I have the top window too high, so I'm just going to position this piece properly. Looks like it still needs to come down. It's still got to come down a little bit more. And Legmog says, thanks man, currently in a constant battle of having an immense visual load, weighted up against using an increasingly old and depreciated PC from 2009. The eternal balancing act. Yep, it can be hard, can't it? If you've got an older PC and the more you start throwing in at 3D, the slower your PC will get, so. I know it can be difficult. Do remember though, you're doing a cinematic, so depending on the 3D software you're using, you can always use proxies instead of the actual geometry. We do that in ArchViz quite a bit because our scenes can get pretty heavy. So instead of actually placing the physical mesh, we just proxy it, and then at render time it pulls it in, so you can get a lot more in a scene without it slowing your PC down too much. So yeah, proxies are a good way to work if you're finding your machine starting to get a bit slow. Of course guys, that'll only work for rendering though. Like, it won't work in a game engine, a real-time game engine, but it works if you're doing a render though, for a cinematic or for a visual or a film or a commercial or whatever. Or in our case for ArchViz, if we're doing renders of our buildings. Okay, now I want to make sure this is positioned correctly. I think it might be. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull this top window down, but before I do that, I'm going to create a blueprint from all of these pieces so it's easier for me to move around. Okay, convert selected components to blueprint class. Blueprints. And we're going to call this one Starlyte Windows underscore prefab. I'm going to put it in my blueprints folder just to keep everything nice and organized. And that'll just make it easier for me to move this piece around now if I want to make fine adjustments to the position, which I'm going to do right now. But yeah, no, do show your work though when you get a bit more done, Legmog, because I'm really keen to see the final result, because the city itself was looking very cool. Legmog says, oh yes, in Cinema 4D they're called X-Reps in Cinema 4D, yep. You'll be making proxies of your hero building soon, yep. Although you just discovered on your last save that some of the lights in the scene have had their parameters randomly changed, like different sizes and colours. Never seen that happen before. No, I've not come across that either. I've noticed problems, you can have problems with lighting in Unreal. Because they use static lights, movable lights, and that type of thing. So you can run into some problems, but I've not run into problems generally with lighting. I use Max though. But Cinema 4D is a very robust 3D program. I'm surprised. I wonder what would have caused problems with lighting like that. You're not instancing any of your lighting or anything? Legmog says, yeah, used C4D since Cinema 4D since 2005. You've never seen it either? No, I haven't either. No, the only thing I could hazard a guess at is if you're maybe instancing or something the lighting and you're changing a value on one and that's changing it on others that you're not aware of or didn't mean to. Because yeah, no, I've never seen lights being changed randomly unless you make a change generally yourself. And that can happen easily if you're doing any instancing of things like that. But if you're not instancing, then that's not going to be the problem. Might just see if I can move this over just a little bit. So I want to sort of make sure it's in the middle of my hallway. Should be okay. Now let's move our blueprint over to fit it. I'm trying to remember with this whether... I'm just going to jump quickly back into Max so I can go back to my reference to see how I actually designed this. because I've forgotten. Again, I'm just going to select an object to lock it on so that Max's viewport knows what I'm trying to look at. Legmog says you have an idea, you reply to parameter morph tag to the hero building with 2 states. State 1 lights on, state 2 lights off, and you think maybe the morph tag is glitched. Okay, and constantly morphing between the 2 states has made C4D's brain melt. Okay, yeah, that's possible. I haven't mucked around with morphing very much. We used to do it when we were in film quite a bit. Facial animation, they used to morph that quite a lot. Animated stuff, that is, not actors. So I haven't really played with morphing much since then, because in ArchViz we don't do a lot with morphing. Let's try pulling this down a little bit, I think. And Legmog says originally in Cinema 4D the morph tag was just for deforming object meshes, yep. So facial expression, yep. But they recently made it so the morph tag can also morph between not only point mesh but also parameters of an object. Yeah, you can do that in Max as well. It's not just for vertex manipulation morphing, you can actually do it on your materials as well. You can morph between different parameters for your materials. Again though, I don't play with morphing much anymore in Max. And Legmog says this is the first time you've ever used a morph tag to morph between object parameters. Yep. It's a great tool. Like if you're doing renders and you need to do some morphing, having the ability to use morphing it can be really useful, particularly for material work, to get a material to change over time. That's generally how they'll like if you have a landscape that you want to as an example, if you have a landscape that you want to erode, you can do that through morphing the parameters of the materials, and it can look really cool. So yeah, it's a really useful thing to use, and like I said, it's used in film work quite a lot, mainly. ArchViz we don't tend to use it very much, but it's certainly very cool. But yeah, if you're not careful, when you start changing parameters, you can start to mess things up without realizing it. Again, I'm just going to pull this up just a touch. Maybe a bit too much. Actually, maybe if I pull it in just a little bit. Because this is such a tight, confined space, and because I created these assets specifically for this little hallway section here, it's a bit fiddly for me to get it to line up properly coming from Max into Unreal. Because as I said, when I bring my assets in, I center the pivot to the middle of the object. Now, if you're working with Unreal in your 3D program, by default it doesn't do that. It centers to 0, 0, 0 world coordinates, in which case all of this would line up automatically. I don't do it that way because I like to have my pivot in the middle of whatever I'm moving. It gets too confusing otherwise. If my object is here and my pivot is all the way at 0, 0, 0 somewhere off in the distance here. But if I hadn't have done that, then they'd fit together automatically. So don't think that working on a really fiddly section like this is a pain, because generally it's not. Just me. Legmog, as you want the city to be seen in the daytime and the nighttime, you're constantly manually changing the light parameters, yeah. So you figured setting up a morph tag that encompassed the 2 states of day and night, it'd be simpler, but you have a feeling that it's the cause of your problems. Well, like you said, there could be some sort of bug going on in the morph itself, like not through nothing you've done, just through the code in the background, could be bugging out. It's always possible. And that sounds like an excellent way to do it, by the way. That's probably how I'd tackle that project as well. If you've got a city that you want to have do a cinematic during the day and the night, creating a morph for it is an excellent way to go. The other way to go would be to create 2 separate scenes, create a day scene and a night scene. You only and do your renders through 2 different saves of the program, one with the night, one with the day. The only problem with that is if you do want to transition from day to night, then you'll need to do a morph. So morph is the only way to go then. But if you're only ever going to do straight cuts from day scenes to night scenes, then 2 separate saves of the file, one with daytime, one with nighttime, and work with those 2 if you find that will be easier. Legmog says he's discovered a ton of glitches and problems with Cinema 4D by doing the project. You could provide a massive dossier to Maxon with everything you've found. Well, you actually should let them know. If I do with 3D Studio Max, if I come across any bugs on anything that while I'm working, I always let them know. They have Max crashes, for instance. It automatically pops up as a dialog box to send Autodesk a SIR report, CER. I always make sure I do that, but if I come across any bugs in Max, then I always let Autodesk know, and they generally will fix it eventually. They do listen. They don't always, not always the fastest to fix stuff, but they do listen to the users. But yeah, so yeah, if you find that the morph target is too glitchy, you may have to just settle with doing a day scene and a night scene and doing a render that way on 2 separate files, a day scene file and a night scene file. But like I said, you won't then be able to do the transition between night to day in the cinematic live. It'll be more difficult. You still probably could. You could probably get away with doing it maybe in some sort of post-process in your compositing software when you're doing your cinematic or your TV series or whatever it is that the cinematic is for. Yeah. I'd let Maxon know though. If you come across bugs, shoot off an email to their support department and tell them. Say, listen, this doesn't work properly. See what they say. Because they make some great software. It's not just Cinema 4D that Maxon make. They make a lot of stuff. I used to use a program that they made. I don't use it anymore because I don't do much destruction work, but it used to be for Alembic. To create an Alembic file, which is a 3D format for animated anything mesh. But for, they made a program specifically for destruction so that you could use physics destruction and manipulate it on the fly. I can't remember for the life of me what the program was called now. And it was very good. The Hambone's asking if I ever do work for film. I have done work for film in the past, yes. I do ArchViz work now, but I've worked in games development and also in film. So I've done it all over my years and years of working in 3D. That's the reason that I use Mari to do my I prefer to use Mari to do my texture work because it's used in film a lot. Because you can have huge texture sizes for your objects. And I started using it when I was doing film work, and I continue using it to this day for everything now. Legmog says sometimes it's not even bugs but usability issues, like say for example Cinema 4D's fog atmosphere feature, which causes the scene to fade and further away from the camera and obsolete, an absolute must for realistic renders. Yep. Legmog, though sometimes you want some objects to be excluded from the fog atmosphere, but there's no way to do it. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if there's a way to do it in Max either, actually. There may be. Again, it's not something I've looked into heavily in Max fogging. I know you can exclude objects from lighting and things. Possibly you could do it the same sort of way in Max. Hambone question mark. I don't understand. Do you want to ask me something else, or you? Yes, but I have done film work, Hambone. The Hambone. Oh, sorry. Any movies that I may have heard of? Probably not. Do you remember a film called Jumper? Jumper. Any movie? Yeah. Do you remember a film called, it was released probably 5 or 6 years ago now, maybe longer, called Jumper, Jumper. It had that guy from Star Wars, the remake of the Star Wars movies before the new remakes. The young guy who played, who turned into Darth Vader. He was in it. I worked on Jumper. That was probably the last big budget movie that I worked on. I've done a lot of smaller film work before, independent films and just smaller general commercial type work as well. Hayden Christensen, that's him. Yep. That's the one. I worked on mainly, do you remember the Colosseum scene where he's popping in and out of the Colosseum in Italy? I worked on the brick walls, the stone walls that make up the erect stone walls that make up the interior of the bottom of the Colosseum. I worked on stuff on that, basically. So yeah, that would be the last big budget film, because then I got out of film and went into arch viz work. So I do architectural visualization now.